shop update video. It's been a while since I've done any talking videos or build videos, really. I've taken quite a long hiatus from uploading content, and so I would like to just take a little walk around the shop, show what is new, and talk about some ideas for future videos. The photos at the beginning of this video are projects that have been completed in the past 2 or 3 years, most of which I've recorded the entire build process and have yet to edit the video, which in some cases takes longer than actually building the thing. But I will get around to it eventually. This project I have right now is a little bit different. It's a mud kitchen, which is an outdoor play kitchen, and it's got a 1-coat exterior stain, which after 48 hours is still a little bit tacky. I bought 3 different products, and they're all pretty much the same, kind of weird 1-coat products that are supposed to waterproof and protect, but really takes a long time to dry. So I'm just waiting for that, and I'll put it together. I'm making this out of spruce framing lumber, but check out this building material. I found this almost old growth spruce. It's really rare to see this at a lumber yard. Normally you get growth rings like this. I mean, just look at the difference. It just comes from an older tree, probably further up north in Canada, where things grow very slow. But really great material to work with. Not warpy and twisted like what you see at the Home Depot. This is what framing lumber would look like 100 years ago. And looks like some of the reclaimed stuff that I work with. It's going to have a functioning sink, as well as burners that light up. This is the first time I've done anything with resin casting, even though that's been trendy for a while. These are the burners, and they light up like that. And I have switches that have 3 different levels of light to make it more interactive and fun. Over here I have a design for 2 little tiny toy cars. I wanted to make these just as a mental challenge to see how small I could work with the smallest silicone bumpers that I sell. And this is drawn in 1:1 scale, which I don't know if you can get any perspective on that, but I'd like to do more DeltaCAD tutorials just because it's such a useful program and simple. I started making these veneered boxes years and years ago, even before the GoPro 4, and they've got magnets in them to hold the lids on. I just have to drill the hole and then do the finish work. But you know, just a little fun project you can do with scrap wood and veneer. But that's another future video. I have the stock milled up for the toy cars, but I had to switch gears and start making more furniture. So I'd like to get these projects going, as well as other projects. I like small work, making toys and puzzles. So I'm using this catering tray as a sink, and I cut open a recess for a drain. I wasn't sure how that was going to work, but I was able to form that with a hammer, and it worked pretty well. So anyways, where do we start? I have my clamp rack here, which was in my last video, and it's been working great, keeping everything accessible. I've done a lot of cleaning and organizing in the shop this summer, and Not so much in this room. This is my cold space storage room where I have a few machines, but I don't really build anything back here, so it just ends up being a place where I throw a bunch of stuff and extra building material, garbage. This is my bandsaw. It's a 19-inch grizzly bandsaw, which gets used mostly for cutting up cardboard now for the cutting board feet mailers. I use scrap cardboard and recycle it for the mailers. This is my drill press that I got for my 14th birthday, still in good use. And this is my edge sander, which was the last big machine purchase that I made, but it really is an essential tool for any kind of cabinet making. I have a 1632 drum sander, which I seldom use, but I do use it for small work. My old compressor with a busted tank. I got to get rid of that thing. And this is my 20-inch planer with a spiral cutter head. These machines all doubled in price from the time I bought them. Everything is just getting more and more expensive. This thing over here is great. It's called a slab dolly. I did a couple countertop jobs that were big and heavy, and so I needed something to move them around. And for $150, this gives you a lot of capability. Ball bearing wheels, and it rolls very smooth over my uneven wood surface. But I use it mostly now for material handling. Sheets of plywood stored in the garage come in through that door right there. So I just kind of snake it through here. But really great thing to have for $150 to give you that material handling capability. And you might end up building a big heavy countertop someday. So that's this room, kind of a mess. This is my main workbench, pedestal workbench. And these are my shop horses, which I used for materials when I would get deliveries of whole bunks of plywood or stacks of lumber. They're designed to hold an extremely high weight limit, but I use them here for making bases for these two workbenches that I use. So I'm going to have to make some more shop horses because those plastic sawhorses just are not capable of holding a very heavy load. So you might notice I don't have a vise on my workbenches. I actually have a pet peeve with things that protrude and get bumped into and snagged on clothing. I used to have a record woodworking vise right here, and I'd always run into it and hurt my hip, and I really tripped over and hit the floor hard this one time, and I just took it off and said to hell with it. But I'm able to get along without a permanent vise. I have this aluminum angle plate, which is incredibly useful for securing work in a vertical position. So I use that, but I do have this vise over here, which I want to make a video for in the future. It was kind of an experimental project. But this is a cheap 8-inch metalworking vise. Costs less than $100 to get shipped to your door. And I converted it into a woodworking vise by making these custom hardwood jaws. And I added this hand wheel that fits over the floppy bar handle that pinches fingers and gets caught on clothing. I really hate those things on vices, and they all have that. But I will tell you, once you try a vise with a hand wheel, you'll never go back. It really is a pleasure to use, comfortable, doesn't get caught on things, and I will do a future video for that because this project turned out incredibly well. It's a versatile vise that's portable. I have it mounted on this hardwood cutting board slab, and so it can go on any work surface. I use it a lot in this position on this lower bench for doing work pieces that are taller. but it can go on my downdraft table. So if I'm drilling or cutting with the vise, I have dust collection hooked up right around it. And so it's great. It's a vise that can work anywhere and can be removed to get out of the way. I really wouldn't want to have a wood shop without it now that I've been using it for a few years. And I've learned different applications along the way. It's not just for sanding. I use it a lot for routing. I use it a lot for hand cutting with hand saws, where these slots add access for the saw, jigsawing as well, and also some hand planing. I can put a workpiece like a tabletop on this, and without any clamps, I can secure it enough to do hand planing, which really saves a lot of time. And it's just been a great thing to have. So I'm going to make a video reviewing this tool that I built and the things that it can do. I also wanted to make a video about my dust collection system, which is mounted there behind the wall. And I have a dust silo outside that collects the dust. Just about ready to change it. I do it every year or every other year. But it's a maintenance-free system that works super efficiently and removes all the dust outside the shop. And so I have a virtually dust-free shop as far as the machines that are hooked up to it. I've got my double head router table here. I just did another load of stretchers that I took down to SUNY New Paltz that buys these things for me every year. I made an outfeed table for it this year so that I could do the routing operation without an outfeed employee, so I could just do a little bit at a time, which helped improve the flow of materials in the shop and save some money and labor. But that thing is still working great. I've got 2 routers and a vintage power feeder called a King Easy Feed. And great tool, but routing can create a lot of dust, and that's one of the things that I needed to control. This is my 10-inch joiner that they don't make anymore. Very solid wedge bed design joiner. And yeah, so not too much has changed in this area of the shop. I do have my lathe set up now, which was buried. I did a custom turning job last year, but it seems to be okay here in this spot, doesn't get in the way, and I do like the capability of producing turnings, so I think I'm just going to keep it here for now. And I found a way to hook up dust collection to it by clamping the 6-inch pipe behind that cage. And so the lathe, sanding on the lathe can produce a lot of dust as well. So it's good to have dust collection on there. I do have my big drill press hooked up here now. It used to sit in the corner over there where I had a big mess of clamps. And I seldom used it because it was cumbersome to hook up the dust collection. I don't have a port for dust collection in that corner. So I jerry-rigged something over here to snake it underneath these tables, and then it hooks up over there and goes back to the blower. So this is a really great drill press. It's a Walker Turner 1940s era, rock solid, and it works great. I love using it. So I have 2 drill presses that I can use, and this sander is new. I've been phasing out the orbit sander. I'm going to do a video about sanding and reveal some secrets that I have discovered. And I've been implementing these quarter sheet sanders and using a different kind of sanding product. I've been able to find uses for these tools where most woodworkers just kind of ignore them or don't use them. I found a great use for them for sanding corners, edges. And in this case, I have a third sheet sander mounted upside down, and I actually use this for doing small work. So it's just a completely different way of sanding something. And that is all capability that I discovered with the downdraft table. As you can see, I don't have any hoses or dust collection bags hooked up to these, so I can use them as they are on this sanding table here and not have to worry about dust. So that'll all be in a future video. Really great capability. The Orbit sander is just too aggressive for doing edge work and corners. Moving right along. This area of the shop over here has been transforming into product cutting board feet. I have all this product here organizing. This is where I weigh out the parts and put stuff in bags and print out the labels and get it ready to go. And so that's what happens here. And so if I didn't have good dust collection at the end of the shop here where I do all the work, all this product would get covered with dust, in no time. And so it's really essential I have a good solution for dust collection. And I would like to make more of these videos just showing how my system works and what it can do. So my two table saws are here. I've been buying these carts, these 30-inch carts on wheels. I have 3 of them that I use for material handling and tool carts. Very useful. So I have lots of carts. This is a 5 horsepower 12-inch Grizzly table saw, and I rarely put the 12-inch blade on it. I just run the standard 10-inch combination blade. And then I have a smaller 10-inch jet table saw, which was my first saw that I bought when I was 16. And so this Grizzly is a left tilt and the jet is a right tilt. So if anybody asks which is the better tilt mechanism, well, it helps to have both. I would say the left tilt is more useful for general mitering, but there have been cases where I've used both the left and right tilt on the same workpiece. So usually I just keep a dado blade on the 10-inch jet because I use a lot of dado joinery. I did have some problems with my Grizzly switch years ago, and I made videos about that, but that problem has been solved. I did modify the dust collection on it, which I can show better in a different video, but these are my table saws, and they work pretty good. I've got a router table, a very simple one, with a dust isolation circuit hooked up to it, so I can get dust collection on the bottom and the top through the fence. And this is my tilt-top 4-inch port, which you've seen before, and that gets most of the dust above that table saw blade. So moving along, in this nook and cranny of the shop, I've got my antique oil furnace still working. Maybe not very efficient, but it does put out a lot of heat. I can heat up this whole space in about 15 minutes, so I just use it when I need it. I do have a little bit of a leak problem on my chimney here, which is not looking so good. And here is my computer station. I've got 2 computers. One I use for CAD design and printing shipping labels, and this faster computer I use for rendering the woodworking videos and also hooking up to my microscope lab. I've actually got a new microscope here that I'm still setting up. So yeah, the microscope lab is something new. In the past few years, I've developed this hobby. I collect unique and interesting samples, materials, metals, crystals, rocks, residues, World Trade Center debris, weird stuff. And I just take a peek at it. I do experiments with magnetism and static charges. With this microscope, it's very versatile. It has a very large focal range, so it's good at general inspection. So yeah, do some woodworking, explore the unknown universe, all in the same building. Got lots and lots of screws, stainless steel screws, woodworking screws, maybe a few loose screws, getting lost in the wood shop forever. Anyways, here's my painting station where I hang up all my brushes, mixing paints and varnishes, and my slop sink. I'm still using the GoPro 4 to record my build processes. It's really an outdated piece of technology at this point, but it's easy for me to use to set up while I'm building. It can get pretty close to the machines, and I don't have to worry about damaging it. Whereas I get an expensive camera, I've got to be careful with things. So I'm still using the GoPro 4. My lighting in the shop is not really that great. I've got these old light fixtures where like only 2 of them I think are working. I have to replace the bulbs and the starters, but I just haven't gotten around to it because I wanted to replace all this lighting and upgrade it to LED, but it's just one of those projects I haven't gotten around to. So yeah, the video quality sometimes, especially at night, is not that good. This is part of the shop that seldom gets seen. I renovated it years ago and intended to have a showroom back here, but then we ended up living in it. So this is the kitchen. I did a copper countertop. I never finished the cabinets. I never got the doors on. I have a bad habit of just not finishing things, I guess. But this is where we lived. A lot of work to get this all cleaned up and painted. And this is a table I built right before I started a business. I was renting a house, and my roommate at the time stole this lumber from a construction site and brought it to me and said, "Here, make a table." So I got a handsaw and some chisels, and had a little workbench in the garage, so I just used hand tools to make all this joinery, wood peg and mortise and tenon. It can all knock down and come apart. It's made out of cypress. The top has quite a bit of wear from use, but it's weathered wood from a mushroom growing barn. Kind of has a unique appearance and super splintery too. So the purpose of this space is mostly just for bumper storage now. And I've got an exercise bike. I built all these racks this summer. You couldn't walk in this space before. It was just completely cluttered with cardboard boxes. But I built 6 or 7 of these racks. And these are the metal muscle racks that I modify to get more height. And I put levelers on them so they get all leveled up on my floor. And they work great. It's a great system. I double up the shelves because the 3/8 particle board that comes with it, it's pretty flimsy. So I end up pressing all these panels, and I use scrap plywood to make the rest of the panels. But it's a really solid system. And I can use scrap 2x3s to make all the parts. So a lot of the material that I put into it is scrap wood that I have in the shop. I thought about doing a build video for this, but I figured it'd just be kind of boring. So we'll just see the end result. I have a couple finished pieces in here. This is an armoire that I built out of cedar that's painted, and it's all finished on the inside real nice. I still have a lot of stuff left over from when we lived here that I have to get rid of or put into storage. And then this armoire over here was my entertainment center. And it's got this tri-fold door mechanism, which is unique. So it opens up like this, and then it wraps all the way around on the side. So instead of retractable doors, they fold neatly on the side. Just a innovation that I was experimenting with, just to see, if that would work. Joe used to sleep on top of this piece here. Those were his beds. On a sad note, Joe, the shop cat, has died. We moved him out of the shop into our new home out in the woods. He really liked the area, but somehow managed to break his leg really bad, which he recovered from, but then developed other health issues along the way. So it was downhill for Joe. In the meantime, I managed to break my ankle in 3 places, which was a long recovery. I thought maybe I'd get caught up on video editing during that time, but sitting down ended up being problematic for circulation. And so I just became very inactive and depressed and not really doing a whole lot. So there's been a lot going on. We bought a house, moved out of the shop. Wife had a baby. That's been a big life change for me. Amazing and kind of scary at the same time. So yeah, painting the ceiling was a lot of fun. And these cabinets here that are numbered are part of the original building. And so I scraped these down and finished them up. It's made out of heart pine. And then I salvaged some more of that material that I was going to use to build the doors for these lower cabinets. So another project I'll get done when I can clone myself. This is the bedroom in here, or used to be my bedroom, but I now have floor-to-ceiling racks. Kind of got a whole candy store of bumpers in here. Lots of new colors that have been coming in. I got this yellow color and this new purple color, which is kind of neat, as well as light brown and cuttingboardfeet.com. And here's my bed where I still take naps if I'm not feeling well. So this is my nap room and cutting board feet storage room. And I was able to tie these 2 racks together by adding these cleats. That's why I like these metal vertical supports, is that they're easy to build off of, so you can customize them. And yeah, so I'm going to get back to editing, and there will be more videos coming up in the future now that I have the time and I'm all caught up with all the stuff that was backed up for so long. Fast forward here a couple days and wrap up this video. This thing is almost all put together. I just have to make the drain hose connection for the sink and hook up the faucet and add some hooks onto the back. I made this little spice rack tray, but this is pretty much all ready to go. Pretty fun. At least I think it's fun. I hope she likes it. So if there's any suggestions for future videos, I always appreciate the feedback. Just leave a comment or send me a message. Buy my cutting board feet so I can take more naps in the wood shop and have more time to edit videos and keep everything going here. So cuttingboardfeet.com. That's right. I've got the most colorful bumpers in the business. So